Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
And we'll look into the details of that day. Now, 2 years after that, 2 years and 15 days specifically after that, we're looking at a conversation with Maya Parisa, who is a survivor of the attack on the Nova Festival that took place on that day of the 7th of October. She's joined by Ariel Arviv, who is the Deputy Ambassador, the Embassy of Israel to Kenya. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Situation Room this morning. We're going to be looking into a bit of a difficult situation, a conversation this morning, but we're going to talk about it because important for us to do, important for us to look into the realities of very many things and people over the last 2 years. So we'll do that. But first of all, Dennis is going to welcome you. Every week we go around Africa. We land in a different African country. Dennis comes back with the proverbs and he will share that with you, and we'd love to get your interpretation.
So the proverb today comes from a country known as Cape Verde. The locals call it Cabo Verde. Yeah, and it is a country. The capital is prior located on the Santiago Islands, and we talk about a population of around 560,000 people. But the proverb that we get from them today: "You sow wind, you reap storm." You sow wind, you reap storm. How would you interpret that? Good thing is you have both ladies, so Ada could go first.
Wow, this is an interesting subject. Well, Cape Verde, I haven't visited there yet, and it's a beautiful place, I heard. And you're saying they are reaping storms?
Yeah, they sow wind and reap storms. How would you interpret that?
I think it's an interesting technology. We also implemented in Israel, and I know in Kenya also we have some project here. So I think this is like the clean tech that we need in order to fight the climate change.
Interesting.
Okay. Maya?
I don't have a lot of knowledge on the topic.
All right.
Sorry.
It's okay.
What you sow, you reap, essentially.
What you sow, you reap, yeah. So if you plant, say, bananas, you get bananas at the end of the day. Yeah, you would never plant a banana and get an apple. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's look into this conversation, shall we? Music turned to mayhem. The supernova survivor story. And October 7th, we woke up. If I remember, it was a Monday morning. Sunday evening. It was a Sunday?
It was a Saturday.
It was a Saturday eve of the festival. So we wake up Sunday morning and we hear this. Everything has basically gone to hell, literally. So you're here. So tell us from your perspective and from your experience, what happened on that day, Maya?
So that day was a Jewish holiday. We have our Sukkot and Simchat Torah, and it began on Friday, the 6th of October. Me and my husband Ron, who went with me to the festival and survived, thankfully. We went to his family for a Shabbat dinner, for a holiday dinner. And then the party, you get a text message around 10 p.m. in the evening, if I remember correctly, and there is the location of the party. This is occurring due to security concerns, because sometimes they would change the locations. And this festival, I think you have some festivals like this in your country, but also I can compare it to Coachella, I can compare it to Azura in Europe. This is an electronic festival that is supposed to celebrate love and peace and the union of every single person. There have been old people, young people like me, younger even people than me, boys, girls, families, kids, even disabled. Like, every single person is welcome there, and this is really a sense of community. And I'm trying to explain this to you because we were very not aware of what's going to happen. Because when you come to this festival, you come with your heart opened, and you expect to see the sunrise, which is beautiful in the morning. You arrive in the evening. It opens, I think, at 12 a.m. and it wraps around 4 or 5 supposed to. And we arrived actually at 2 in the morning, I think, and already our friends, some of our friends came before us, and they set up our tents, because you come there for 16 hours and you probably need some food, some drinks, some chairs to sit. This is just an open space in a forest. It's just close to the Gaza border, but we didn't know it beforehand.
Okay.
And this party is run through legitimate sources. So the country and IDF were authorizing this party.
So you didn't know that this location
Yeah.
was close to the Gaza border before?
No, we had no idea. And frankly, I don't live in this area. I grew up in the north part of Israel. I've never been in an area where constant red alerts occur. But I have to say that in Israel, ever since we have our country, our people, our citizens are, and it's been normalized to accept red alerts. And these alerts come when Gazans, Palestinians send rockets to Israel, to civilian cities, to everywhere really. And we have our home shelters, and there are public shelters which have no door. It's just concrete walls, and it's very small, the public ones. And in your home, you have a safe room. And whenever you hear these red alerts, you just need to run and just stay there for a few minutes until the alarm is over. And usually Israel intercepts those. We put a lot of money and resources to intercept this. And this area is, in this time, in October 6th, there was peace. This area was just like the rest of part of Israel. People go there to do picnics. People go there to have some parties. People live there. A lot of people who coexisted peacefully with the Palestinians. And this is just, the vibe of October 6th and the previous times. There was peace. There was a ceasefire, not peace, but ceasefire. And everyone in Israel, especially in that area, really always advocated for peace, like myself. And when we went to this party, this wasn't my first Nova Festival. Every time it's a different place, depending on weather, depending on the amount of people coming. The last Nova Festival I attended was actually in really south part of Israel, close to Eilat, like 3 hours away from that party. So it's really changing.
So I asked the question, on that fateful day, what did you see? At what point does it hit you that we are under attack?
So firstly, we arrived and it was magical. I can't even describe, because I was already at one time at the Nova Festival and I was really looking forward to it. And we brought a lot of friends with us. I said to them, the Nova Festival on Israel Independence Day was so amazing. You have to join me. You have to come. I convinced a lot of my friends to join, and it was very beautiful. You can walk inside and there's this area for people to make their tents, and there's this places I didn't even get to walk on, but they had a lot of stores, and people would, just demonstrate dancing and throwing, juggling. And it's really, everyone can go. It's not just about the dancing. It's really about the vibe. And there's the two stages to dance. And when we arrived there, we started to unpack everything, our chairs, our tents, our food. We started to plan because it was supposed to be a long time coming. And when we came to the dance floor, it was amazing. They're the best DJs, and all of the decorations came from the Supernova Festival from Brazil. And it was very beautiful, and I was really looking forward to the sunrise, because then the sun comes and the light starts to change, and it's really my favorite part in these festivals. But unfortunately, in that festival, I think 10 minutes after the sun came up, I had to go to the bathroom. And usually, me and Ron, he's a guy and he can just turn and because it's nature, it's just a forest, he can, just do it on the side. And I have to use the facility, it's not facilities, but it's like a takeaway toilet. I don't know how to say. And then I told him I have to use the bathroom, and he, surprisingly, I can't even understand what made him say, I'm coming with you, but he did. And then we decided to go back to the area of our tents. And that's when it's crazy, it's surreal when you hear all this electronic music and it's supposed to be amazing, and you look up to the sky and you see a lot of white dots, and it was not 1, 2, 5, 10 like usually when it happens in Israel. The fact that we've been normalized to accept this, I feel like this, I don't wish upon any single person to have to run somewhere because their country is being fired at. But we didn't even hear it in the beginning. We could just see it, and And then we started hearing, because sometimes we intercept it with Iron Dome, and sometimes it would just fall on open land. And we started hearing the noise, and all of a sudden they shut down the music, and they kept announcing red alerts, because this was an open space, and no one, we couldn't hear any alarms by the country. And we don't have any public shelters in the area close by. So what best practice to do is just cover your head and stay low. And for me, it was the first time I saw so many of them, and it didn't stop for minutes. It just continued, and I remember it was my first panic attack. People talked to me, but I didn't hear, and all of a sudden, all of the friends gathered in the same area, because we were like undecided on what we're gonna do. The guys were like, oh, it's gonna be over in a few minutes and we're gonna be dancing, because no one would assume that in this time more than 3,000 terrorists would infiltrate Israel and just coming to get whatever they can set their hands on. And we're just kids trying to dance and enjoy life. And I was in a panic attack for 20 minutes, just hiding and looking. And I remember...
What was happening? What was happening in this moment?
In this moment, just you see a lot of because it's close to Gaza, you can see just the white marks of the rockets, and some of them would continue to the center of Israel. Half of Israel woke up that day for alarms. Unfortunately, my family didn't, because they live norther, and they didn't even realize what was happening. But many people woke up and just ran to shelters, even soldiers, everyone, because this is what you do when you don't even assume that this was just the beginning of it. And I would just lie, and everyone was like, Maya, it will be okay. And I was like, it's not stopping, it's gonna fall on us. In my mind, something is gonna fall on us, because statistically speaking, when you see hundreds of rockets flying, you would assume this is an open space, no one would intercept it just above us. You assume the worst can happen to you, especially in my eyes. And they started to say the party is closing, but no one understand.
Who was saying
so
the
DJ?
Who was saying this?
Yeah. So there's the people dancing in the area, and there's this stage for the DJs, and I think someone from the production just came and grabbed the mics, and he just said, red alerts, the party is stopping. He would just continue to say it. But I think a lot of people were so drunk, were so like doing like they didn't even care. And everyone was so confused. And someone from the security just ran to everyone in my area, in the tents area, and he was just saying, it's dangerous, leave. But usually I'm more talkative, like with you. Mm-hmm. But in that moment I was frozen, and I didn't even ask, what is the danger? Like, is it just this? Like, it didn't even occur to me that something else is happening. And in this time now, we know that they've already started to infiltrate kibbutzes in the area. But we didn't know this, of course, at the time.
For the benefit of those who don't know, what is a kibbutz?
Okay, so kibbutz, in Israel, we have cities, which is, Israel itself is very small place. It's very, very tiny dot if you open the map. And inside it living, I think, 9 million people, if I'm correct. And there's a lot of places where you can live in. There's cities, which is big. There is like moshav, which is more farming way. It's more small, like maybe between 500 to 5,000 people live in this moshav. And in kibbutz, it's really it's a community. So it used to be like everyone puts what they can in the money, and you grab what you need. It's very like
communal living.
Yeah, communal living. Yeah, this is the word. And some kibbutzes now operate a little bit differently in the economics side, but it's really family. Like in the kibbutzes in the area close to Gaza, I think some kibbutzes have like 500 people, some kibbutzes have like 1,000 people, but not many people. But a lot of them handle education, a lot of them work with Palestinians, a lot of them do farming as well, and they're really families living there, not IDF, not soldiers, just families. And in this kibbutz, because it's communal, whenever you turn 18, you get this small room, and it's like your own apartment in the kibbutz. So a lot of 18-year-olds to 20, I think, until they get married, they can upgrade themselves while they go older, whatever, to bigger units. But a lot of these people were by themselves that day. 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, people who started hearing gunshots at 6:30. There were kibbutzes where they were the first ones to get attacked, and not many survived, like Nir Oz. This kibbutz was infiltrated, I think, the first one. And there was kibbutzes other who already got the word out that terrorists are coming, and they would have their kitat konenut. It's like a force of just volunteers, just to do patrolling, just to make sure no one is coming to steal. They're not really practicing for...
They're not armed security.
Some of them may have arm just for if some thief is coming, but they're not practicing war. They're not practicing cases of infiltration. Everyone in Israel, there was a conception of naiveness. Everyone didn't assume this was even possible. And we were staying between two kibbutzes. The party was in a forest between two kibbutzes, Kibbutz Re'im and Kibbutz Be'eri. Mm-hmm. And when it started, when this security man tell everyone, now it's time to leave, he was doing it, I think, for a while, but he came to us at 10 minutes to 7. And as soon as he said, it's dangerous, I knew I'm leaving.
Okay. At this point, did you know who this attack was coming from? Because when we on the other side of the world, now on the 7th of October, even on that evening, as we started to see the news alerts, it was very clear, and it was owned, that Hamas had said that this was us. Did you know at the time when this attack was taking place that it was actually Hamas who had infiltrated the area?
At the time he said dangerous, I had no idea infiltration has already happened. I just assumed Hamas and Palestinians are throwing grenades. We didn't know. And if I known, we wouldn't have the time to pack our things. We would just escape as soon as possible. I'm telling you, like at 10 minutes to 7, we took the guys. I was frozen, I couldn't function, but the two guys, we were in my car, 4 people. Me, my husband, and another couple. And Ron and the other guy started to unpack everything, to pack everything up, like the tents, the chairs. We didn't assume like every minute counts. We were really naive, and we went with a group of our friends, and we were like, oh, our car is parked very close. This is another story. When we arrived, it was people. There's this person who's telling you where to park your car, and he was telling us to go inside because we arrived not at the beginning. We arrived at 2 a.m. And Ron just decided, we have some sass of the Israeli, everyone understands it's called the Israeli chutzpah, like the sass of the Israelis. And he was like, nah, he's saying to park, but I found a parking close by. And since I'm the one carrying, I'm going to park. And I was like, no, this guy's literally telling us to continue to park our car. And Ron was like, no, I'm parking here because I'm carrying the stuff. And we were so lucky because we were able to reach our car within seconds. And some of our friends, we would say goodbye to them, and they were like, we don't know where our car is, we'll have to find it, and then we'll continue. And so we reached our car at 7:05. I have a footage. I had a car accident a year before, and since then I put a webcam, like a car cam in my front. So we were able to analyze what was really happening, because you remember, it's a trauma. You don't really know what you're remembering, and seeing it really helped put the puzzle together. I can show you later if you want. And we started to ride at 7:05, and there was already traffic because they were already, like I said, the police knew there was infiltration in the area, but they didn't tell us directly. And when you come to the road, there's 2 options, the left and the right. This is road 232. And the left option was already blocked by police. And we had to take, like everyone else, the right turn. And a few minutes later, at this time that we're leaving, now we know terrorists have already started to come to the area of the party. So
you saw them?
No, we had no idea. I'm telling you, if I had known at that time, I would act completely different. I wouldn't be like scared, but not active. Like we really took the time. We didn't know terrorists are coming, and we took the right option like everyone else, but it started to get traffic because now we know terrorists have already come from the other side as well. And then Ron just decided to U-turn. He was like, nah, I'm not standing in the cars. And that ultimately decision saved us, because some of my friends who just got stuck in this traffic ultimately found a public shelter behind the bus station. In Israel, in this area, behind bus stations, we have the public shelters are just explained about. And the policeman told them there are terrorists coming, so please hide in this. No one assumed that they would use this place of safeness to kill people, but they did. And back to my story, we U-turned, and when we were driving, we passed the party. We passed the police blocking.
You came back.
Yeah, we came
essentially, to
back.
where
We
you were. Okay.
U-turned, and they only blocked like one lane of the road, so the other one was free. And we didn't even stop to ask them. We just continued to ride. We were really ignorant and naive. And as we were driving, we started noticing bizarre things on the road. You would start to see cars on the sides of the road, some of them still with lights on. You would see cars U-turning just before you, but it didn't occur to us to ask, why are you U-turning? And at the beginning, we just talked about anything, like it was a random conversation. And then when we passed the shelter of the dog, the shelters, the public shelters of the bus stations, I think there was a project a few years back where they painted them in different animals. So when I'm saying the dog shelter, it's just a public shelter with painting of a dog. And as we were going to this shelter, it was 17 in the morning. We started seeing many cars, and now we can see windows shattered and doors open. But at that time, all we saw, someone was lying on the street. We thought he was dying. He was dead already. Ron was saying, "Oh, there was an accident. Someone is dead here. Don't look, girls." And I remember looking briefly, and I was so scared. And at that time, we didn't even assume it was terrorist. We thought because of the red alerts and all of the many non-going rockets in the sky that there was panic and car accidents. But I decided I'm calling the police, because what do you do when you see someone like this? You call the police. You do something. We didn't have any place in the car to get this person. We didn't even know if he was alive or not. And as I was trying to call the police, we started hearing gunshots. We didn't know it was aiming at us. We just heard gunshots, and Ron was saying, there's a terrorist shooting, but he didn't see from where. And he just decided to pull up the gas, and we just continued riding further along this road. And this time, now we know this road is filled with terrorists, dozens of them in this time. We didn't know at the time, of course. And as we were passing them, and we're continuing to drive, and now we can see terrorists from motorbikes, terrorists in the streets with arms. It's really blurry, but you can see it, and we didn't know. And as we were driving, I'm still calling the police. Now I'm more scared. There's a terrorist now, and even now that I'm saying this, in Israel, a lot of the time, there have been terror attacks by single terrorists from either the West Bank, from Gaza, or from Israel, just aiming to kill civilians, not for any cause. Civilians shouldn't pay the price of anything, no matter where you're from, no matter what you believe. This has always been how I was raised, and all of the people in Israel are raised to believe that no one should pay the price of a country, regardless of anything.
Okay.
So how did you and the crew that you're with get out of the situation you're in?
Yeah, so we are continuing to drive, and I'm calling the police not answering, and we're passing a kibbutzim, and we're continuing with the Waze. The way is showing us to continue to Sderot, which is like now, it's crazy, because if we would continue all the way, we would probably not be here this time. And someone from the Kitat Konenut, from the forces, I tell you about Kibbutz Saad. This is a religious kibbutz right across from Kfar Aza, a kibbutz that suffered, its people suffered greatly. They were tortured, kidnapped, and houses were burned. People were burned inside. And this kibbutz right across, the Kitat Konenut was already fighting in the main road. And one of them was already injured from gunshots in his shoulder, and they were just pulling cones in the street to prevent people from further going, because our next stop was supposed to be, now they call the Death Junction, Mefalsim Junction, and if we would come there, we wouldn't survive. And the car before us passed, you can see, and for us, they just they couldn't stop the car, but they stopped us. And Ron was trying to bypass them. He didn't even think about stopping. He was just on a mission to get us as fast away from this area. And he was knocking on our car, and he was telling us the road is filled with terrorists. Park the car and run to this kibbutz. And that was the first time that I saw a lot of cars just in the middle, on the main road in the entrance to the kibbutz. And the cars were filled with blood, shattered, not in good condition at all. I think 30 cars or something like that. And we just ran to this kibbutz in 7:30 in the morning, just not knowing what to do. And that's when we start hearing the red alerts. And we're trying to figure out what to do, because if there are so many terrorists, we can't just go knocking on people's doors. Let us into your safe room. And someone was just running there, and he was telling us there's a public shelter there. And so we just ran to the public shelter, the four of us. And at that time, me and the other girl are crying, are hysterical. The guys are like, oh, the terrorists shoot, they will find him quickly, like all the time, and we will be out here in no time, like, don't worry. They didn't even assume it was like this severe at that time, but I assumed, because he said so many, the road is filled with terrorists. In my mind, that's it. And I can't even describe to you what it feels like to be standing in a shelter with no even a place to plug our phones. Our phones, we were using them the entire night. Our batteries were running out of battery. And we can see the border of the kibbutz. This is just a border, like a thin border. Now we know they passed it in many kibbutzes. They just broke it, they fired it, and they got themselves inside. And some of them even went to the main entrance and killed everyone they can and just went inside. And we were standing there, and in my mind, this is not a good place to be standing in if there are terrorists everywhere, because they can see us they don't even have to enter the kibbutz to see us kill. And I don't know if I can ever explain this to someone, but I felt like I'm dying. And
I hear you on that. And I want to come to Ariel just a little bit. We'll come back to continue this. But Ariel, it's interesting, because I'm just looking at the build-up of this story, but it's clear from what Maya has said, that these are young folks, 18, 20, 25, who've come for a concert, but are very well aware of a history of some kind of conflicts that would ensure certain things. Public shelters, kibbutz, where a public shelter is a thing that has been normalized. So you know that you can find one. That the gentlemen who were in their company were not too surprised about what was going on, because it seemed as though this was something that they either may have seen, experienced, or heard before. Mm-hmm. It became the reality of an existence for many. And what am I trying to say? It was not one event. It was an event in the course of 30 years of a constant conflict. So for the country of Israel, the government, how big of a surprise was this, that this happened on the 6th of October? 7th of October, sorry.
I think you gave a completely rational explanation, and I still don't have any rational explanation to what happened. I can say that it was a complete surprise. And I think it was a complete surprise that was I think, road full of mistakes, of not reading the reality as we should have been, because we have seen people coming to the border testing something, but we couldn't really put the pieces together. And I think the greatest conception that misled us to read the reality properly was our belief that on the other side, Hamas can be something else. And we forgot that at the end, it's a terror organization. And they have their covenant from 1987. It's already from there. Back then, they said very clearly, it's not about free Palestine. It's not about connecting the West Bank with Gaza. It's not about that at all. It's about annihilate the state of Israel. It's out there. And if your enemy is telling you they want to destroy you, you probably should believe them and not forget if this is their goal. But I think at that time, at September 23, before October 7 occurred, I think it was a peak of an economic prosperity for Gaza. Many people from Gaza, thousands of them, came to work in Israel. I live near the Gaza border, so I saw many of them every day coming with me in the train.
They're your friends. They're your
And I think
see.
that before Hamas took power in 2006, my father was visiting Gaza. He has a really close friend there. They used to work together in construction. We had a different reality. I grew up in a different reality. But I remember that then when Hamas took power in 2006, something changed. And the red alert that Maya described, this is our system of sirens. Every time rockets has been launched from Gaza, it's something that started to be very, very common. It didn't happen before.
It was normal now.
It's normal. And I think the craziest thing, you can go in the street in Israel, see people are running for shelter, panicking, running for their life, and then 2 minutes after, the situation is done and people go back. And it's something that is like, sometimes people say, you're so resilient. I feel like this resilience is also our problem because we are accepting that. We're normalizing something that is not normal. Just imagine that in Kenya, that suffered so many terror attacks during the recent decades, I think, you would have an October 7 like this. In Kenya, I think, just to compare it to Kenya, it would be 10,000 people being killed on the same day, and more than 2,000 people being kidnapped to, let's say, by Al-Shabaab. I don't think it's something that you can even grasp in a way that it's like, okay, 2 years after, let's go back. Like my family is from Kibbutz Nir Oz, those communities that really believed in coexistence and in peace and work with their Palestinian neighbors. And I think that it caught them really, really by surprise. Not just physically, but the emotional impact of that. And they didn't come back to their home, and they will not go back to their home until Hamas will be taken down from Gaza. Because how can you go back to live only a few meters, actually, from a terror organization that promised to commit another October 7? And this is just like what my experience on that day is just like she's a survivor at the end. She's a survivor of a terror attack. And I know that here in Kenya, you suffered so much from terror. And I know you have the empathy and sympathy to understand what she's experiencing, and also for her to be here today and relive it. It's a great trauma. And also what we are doing in the last 2 years is trying to process this trauma. And it's quite hard since we still have hostages in Gaza. And this story is not ending. This story is not ending. Now I think we are in a historical moment with the President Trump peace program and the ceasefire that's been implemented. And we really hope for the release of all hostages and for a better future for Gaza and for us.
Is it true? Sorry. Go ahead.
You've spoken of you growing up at a different time, at a time where your dad would visit Gaza, has a best friend there, they work together in construction. And you look at the intifadas that have happened before and how that is seen. And one would assume that the October 7th attack is seen as another intifada from Hamas. And as we just talk about that, including the lapses that you say the country overlooked, was it that Israel had lived through such incidences before that were not so keen on what is happening on the other side, not to care?
I think it's a matter of what you want to believe. And I think we wanted to look the other way and to believe that we can coexist. And again, we forgot that, again, it's not the Palestinian Authority. It's not any other, it's a terror organization. You can't change it. And I think we just looked the other way because it was a matter of convenience. And I don't think you can even live a normal life knowing that every moment you have a terror organization on the other side. So we chose to focus on prosperity, on economic partnership with them. I think it was after the Abraham Accords with other countries that been having diplomatic ties with Israel. It felt like a moment of prosperity and blossom and something else. And Israel also has a strong economy, and I think also you want the economy to keep growing, people get jobs, and if you're always in the state of mind of war, you can't really coexist with that. But again, I'm a person of peace, and I always believed in that. And something broke. I think this attack broke my heart, and it broke many people's heart, because when you take the hope of people, what else do you have? Because it always seemed like a matter of okay, if you give them that, probably will give us that. And if you change that, and I used to blame our government, honestly, not thinking about the other side, that it's a terror organization, you can't change it. It is what it is. And if it says again and again, we want to annihilate you, you should believe them. And you can't, I don't see any other way to live with that. How can a country live with that? We chose to live with that until we couldn't. So I think on the emotional level and how they committed it, it was not another intifada. It was not another terror attack. I think, as Maya mentioned, those terrorists came super equipped. They came to commit. To commit a barbaric, heinous attack. They chose to rape women, they chose to burn families, and they chose to film it. The decision of filming that is about spreading terror. And we saw it when we were in our homes, that they were actually doing a WhatsApp call with the family, showing the family how they're murdering the grandma. Why would you do that? Why would you mutilate genitals of women and then burn them? Why would you do that? It's a practice of terror. It's about, okay, now we killed 1,200 people, but spread the rumors to the others that we are coming. And I think we had many miracles on that day. We should have had more preparation. We should be ready for that. But I think, again, we forgot that this is a terror organization and what they are aiming to do. We looked the other way. And now I hope this memory, this trauma will last long enough for us not to forget, and also to create a different reality, because I feel like the people in Gaza, what kind of future they have with this terror organization.
All right. So that no matter how thin you slice it, there are two sides. Maya, when that terrorist attack was taking place, did it, and after the fact that you came to the realization of what was going on, did it ever play in your mind that Israel, as a country as well, had also attacked on the other side? Did it ever play in your mind? And not just in 2023, but from years before, and that would go on to do the same in Palestine?
I'm really sorry to say that there is a big distinction between what Israel has been doing, and I've always been critical of IDF, and there's always moral dilemmas when you come to a house. What do you do when you see a kid? What do you do? I've always been empathetic and sympathetic towards Palestinians. I always used to believe that there are innocent Palestinians who want to prosper, who want to go to get education, who want to travel the world, to post on Instagram, to have the life that I wish for myself. And I've always, talked about it openly with my friends in programs, in leadership programs I attended, and when I was a counselor in many programs. But there is a big, big distinction. You can't say the same thing that it's the same, because what they did to us on this day, they didn't ask us if we want peace. They didn't ask us what we believe in. They didn't ask us what is our religion, what is our nationality. Being this close to death is really is something I don't wish to my worst enemy, to be able to call up your parents who are far from you and to say to them that you don't think you're gonna make it. You're stuck in this area and there's terror. And this is different. I'm sorry. It's different than how Israel is acting. IDF is a defense army. I know that it has its issues. I'm also critical of it. And it's always working to improving. But every time there's been casualties from Gaza, it wasn't from a direct attack on civilians.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me just finish this sentence, because it's a part of a bigger sentence. There are civilian casualties from Gaza, but Israel always tells them to evacuate before they're attacking. And I know this because my husband Ron, he's in the reserves.
What about hospitals? And Ariel can also.
So
what about hospitals where hundreds of babies are children, young children?
First of all, I am
sorry. Allow me to finish the question. Where babies, in hospital, Arkil, who gives advance notice or warning that babies, children, young children, essentially would be attacked in hospital? I think this is also something that Ariel can, because you said that nobody asks you where you're from or who you are before an attack happens. Let's look on the other side,
where
these have
always
actually
alerts before, always sends
that
alerts.
alerts and says we are going to blow up a hospital.
Yes.
And Benjamin Netanyahu came before the United Nations when these questions were asked. Because in the reality of this situation, these are also realities. And that's why I started with, no matter how thin you slice it, who tells the parents of these babies who are in hospital that we are going to take your children to safer places? Who does that, Ariel?
So I think, first of all, let's target the elephant in the room. I'm a mother. And when I see children that have been affected by a conflict, I cry. It is sad, and it's something that happens in wars. And I'm seeing the pictures as much as you, watching them. And when I see children from our side dying and children from the Gaza side dying, I'm crying. And I think many Israelis can relate to that. It doesn't matter from which side are you. Wars are something that. War causes a human tragedy. No matter how you flip it. I think we can all agree. Wars cause casualties. Specifically, when you talk about counterterrorism war, when the terrorists are using civilian infrastructure, it makes it a bit more tricky. And when you look at counterterrorism in Afghanistan and Iraq, the mass casualties, civilians, children, women are much higher than what we had in Gaza. The data are supporting what I'm saying, but again, when you see the pictures, it's heartbreaking. And I can't ignore it, and we are not ignoring that. It's something that's been happening in the conflict. There are safe areas in Gaza. There are hospitals that have been requested to evacuate before. Those hospitals are not being bombed just because they're hospitals. We need to say the truth about that. Hamas is using those hospitals. Sometimes they're even going as doctors with the white gloves, and then they're using those hospitals to put ammunition, to put weapons, and sometimes they even use it as to store hostages. Many hostages actually said that they were in Shifa Hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in Gaza, at the beginning of the war, and they've been held there. So Hamas is using that in order for us to strike those hospitals. So it's kind of a double crime from their side, because for them, as long as civilians are being...
This is proven, Ariel? This is proven that they are hospitals where they're not empty hospitals, Ariel. There are patients.
I know.
In these hospitals.
I know. This is a tragedy.
What you're saying is extremely serious, that they're using these hospitals where there are patients, children, and posing in order to invite an attack from Israel?
True. This is their double crime strategy of us causing civilian casualties from their own population. So how... Like, for example, let's take Kenyatta Hospital. Just imagine in your national hospital that some terror organization will store them ammunition, weapons, rockets, and also terrorists that have been in the basement. Like, what can you do with that? You're trying to give a head notice. You're trying to tell them to go to the humanitarian side. And we've done many operations. I have evidence of that we were waiting with the operations to be launched until we saw that they've been evacuated, new cares and newborns. But sometimes it happens. And this is the tragedy, because when I see it, I'm not just saying it just for that. I'm really crying, because for me, I was like, why are you doing this to your own people? Why? And how can we move along with this terror organization there? They are just taking advantage of their own population. As long as people are dying from their side, it's a victory for them.
So does the Israeli government then take responsibility of innocent civilians who have died during this war? And then again, there has been conversations on that the government of Israel is annexing territory that does not belong to them in Palestine, and that is why this war has extended for this period. So two questions: is it true that Israel is annexing land that does not belong to them? And two, does the Israeli government take responsibility for innocent lives that have been taken?
Okay, so thank you for that. So for the first question, I think now us accepting, we were the first to accept President Trump peace and ceasefire plan. And this plan is very, very specific with 20 key points that needs to 20 terms and conditions that need to happen in order to implement this lasting peace. One of this says that Israel cannot take any territory from Gaza. It's very, very clear, and we accepted it. I think no one. Maybe you hear some very far-right voices of people that says, "Oh, we would like to take Gaza," but it doesn't reflect the government, and it doesn't reflect the majority of the people in Israel that just want this conflict to be done, the hostages be back, and Hamas taken out of their weapons. I think this is like every Israeli can agree on that, and so I think we can agree on that point that we do not wish to do that in Gaza. Our condition was always hostages, the release of the hostages, and we are glad that part of them came home. The living hostages are home, and we still have in Gaza 13 deceased hostages. One of them, I want to mention, it's very important. One of them is Joshua Molel. Joshua Molel is a Tanzanian student that came to Israel for a better life for his family, came to study agriculture, and just a few days before October 7 he came. And then on October 7, I don't know if you saw it, it was the Hamas terrorists filmed it live. They stabbed him to death. It's very clear. He was speaking with them in English. It was very clear he's not Israeli. He was begging for his life. They killed him in a gruesome way, filmed it, enjoyed it, and then took his body as a leverage to Gaza. And he's still there. And we are committed for his family for a proper burial. So this is why we're fighting for that. And alongside Joshua, we have 12 others that are still there. So this was something that we were very insisting on. Hamas, of course, didn't want to release them because they want to use them as leverage in order to promise their survival. And the second condition is to demilitarize Hamas. And this one, we're waiting. Now we have the yellow line. The IDF withdraw to the yellow line. And we're waiting on this line in Gaza. And when we'll see this condition happens and a different regime will come, we'll withdraw completely from Gaza.
Okay. So, Maya, compare that night with how things are today. And obviously we know that negotiated by President Donald Trump, both sides have agreed at the very least to ceasefire. And that there are certain things that then will happen as a result of that going forward. Is it a plastic kind of peace? Is the peace at the moment different from that night?
I feel like just to compare, okay, the hostages who've been in tunnels for over 2 years, who've just been released, one of the first things that was important to them was to smile and to hug their family and loved ones. And the resilience of the Israelis is really astonishing. I can't even begin to understand how they can smile and choose life. Now we know that they've been starved. Some of them were alone, chained for a long time in this tunnel. These are people that went to the Nova Festival, innocent people from the kibbutzes, from all ages. And as to your question about what will I see next, I hope. I've always been an advocate for peace, and I hope that there will be peace. But if you're saying, is it a plastic now bandage? I think it's not going to make a permanent peace, because it's really hard to change the majority of opinions where people choose death over life. And I don't know if you heard the story of Shani Luke. Shani Luke went to the Nova Festival, and she was kidnapped alive to Gaza, and she was led there in a truck, and she had blood injuries from her intimate parts, and they were kicking her and raping her and the crowd was cheering. And these are not just Hamas terrorists. These are children, these are elderlies, these are people from Palestine. I'm not sure if I can say that they're all from Hamas because they're not wearing army uniform. And I'm hoping, I'm wishing for the Palestinians to choose life over death, because for me this day will never be a day of some sense of victory. Even if there will be peace, this will be a day of horrible death, dying for a long conflict, and these people are innocent souls. And I wish for the Palestinians to grow new generations where they just want to prosper, where they just want to travel the world, where they choose the life over death. Because what I saw in my eyes from their videos that they put in the Telegram channels and all over the social media was just people enjoying death and celebrating death. And for me, there's nothing to celebrate about this thing. For both sides. Not a single Israeli celebrated. Not a single Israeli has ever been glad of a death of a Palestinian. This is something I never wish for any other person in the world to be killed this way. From all the sides, from every people on this planet. And I hope the time will tell. I hope that the Trump peace will lead to forces to come there and to disarm the people in Gaza. And I think during a lot of time and education and prosperity, there could be peace. I want the peace. I want to believe in peace, but it's hard for me to see it right now, because a lot of these people, even to this day, October 7th happened 2 years ago, and they celebrate this day. They opened a cafe called Nova Cafe. Like, why would you do that? Like, this is really offensive.
I hear you. Finally, Ariel, can both sides choose life over death, in the sense that we saw food being used as a weapon? We saw citizens in Palestine dying because roads that lead for food aid were closed, and even some were being killed. Can both sides choose life over death?
Every day. It's a decision. It's a hard decision sometimes, but every day we can choose it. And I think if you ask most of the Israelis, for sure, I think the greatest obstacle to move forward is Hamas, and also the radicalization that the Palestinian society has been. That's been taught to hate us more than to love their children. And I really, really hope this trauma, we came on the verge of a catastrophe for both sides, because what Hamas did on October 7th. And I hope that sometimes you need to go to the lowest point in order to grow. I think we started from the tragedy of Maya and what she experienced, and from me saying my heart was broken on that day. I think now seeing Maya today, she chose life. She survived, she got married, and I think her story at the end is about hope and resilience, is choosing life every day. And I, as an Israeli, not saying as a diplomat or a former representative, as an Israeli, as a mother, I want a better future for my son. I can go back to Israel with my son saying, okay, it is what it is. And I hope that also Palestinian mothers from the other side are saying this also. We don't want our sons to be played as a pawn in Hamas chessboard. So I chose to live with and from hope, and I also chose it here, and I hope that we can proceed to a long-lasting peace. Of course, we need to fight this obstacle called Hamas.
Maya Paris, a survivor of the attack on the Nova Festival, October 7th, 2023, and joined by Ariel Aviv, who's a Deputy Ambassador, the Embassy of Israel to Kenya. Thank you both for being here this morning and for sharing those stories. And of course, it is a still-to-watch situation in terms of how this continues, but thanks for being here this morning. Asante, good morning at 9:02.
News from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.